Welcome back to another video. As promised, we're going to be finishing up my Mia Adore, I so butchered her name, it's my graduation dress. And by finishing up, I mean actually fixing a lot of things that are wrong with it. I purchased the pattern a little while ago, tried putting it together, and it honestly, like, the pattern looks really good, but there was just some fit issues for me. And then I also picked out a bias tape that I didn't really like with this particular fabric because I think it was too stiff, like it just doesn't move very well with the dress. I also wasn't using a walking foot, and I found that when I was sewing the panels together, I felt like the fabric, like some way, somehow it would get stretched and it wouldn't match up very well. So I bought a walking foot and we're going to try that and see how it goes. Alright, so here's what the dress looks like on. It's actually a lot better than I remember, but the things that I want to fix is obviously we're going to seam rip all of the bias binding because it's just too stiff. And around the bust area, I don't know what's going on here, like why this is gaping. It looks like there's even like a seam here in the bias binding, and I don't know why. I want to take in the straps a little bit because this is also like gaping and I want it to lay more flat. Here's like that rippling effect. Okay, so first things first, I'm just gonna give it a good press so I could better see what's going on. Also, these wrinkles are bothering me. I'm trying to figure out where the rippling on the right side was. So I think this is it right here. I just sewed like a little too, I'm gonna mark that just so I know where it was. And now we're gonna flip this dress inside out and you're gonna see what kind of nightmares lay underneath. Stick some pins into where I marked with the tailor's chalk so I could see on the other side. Why does that look so different? This is what we are working with. Here, I think part of the issue is the bias tape and perhaps my sewing. Here, I didn't sew all the way through, and I also didn't fold the seam into a specific direction. The straps, I feel like, could be finished a lot nicer. I think I just trimmed the seams down so there's not much of a seam allowance. I'm gonna need to try it on again to see if I even have enough space to do a proper seam allowance after I seam rip it and re-sew it. Look at how jagged this all looks. I probably just got impatient and cut everything like free-handed. And then here, it's like I didn't sew very straight. I don't know what I'm doing, but we're trying our best. I feel like most of it is just like problem solving. Famous last words. She's getting brave and bold. I'm going to bring out the rotary cutter to just trim this little bit of fabric. Alright, so I had finished seam ripping everything, and boy oh boy, seam ripping zigzag stitches on stretchy fabric is very tedious. You pretty much are just going like stitch by stitch, removing like the stitches one by one, not really seam ripping because it can snag very easily. So that took me a minute, let me tell you. And now I'm just giving the panels a press. So you can see here on like the neckline, when I sewed it last, the edge got folded like quite a little bit into the bias tape. The two panels, right sides together. Hopefully this is matched up pretty well. And then I'm just making sure that my excess fabric actually doesn't hang down the table so it doesn't stretch. To be completely honest with you, I don't remember like what thread tension, length, and width I was supposed to use, so I just asked ChatGPT what it thought I should use. The zigzag stitch length is at 2.5, width is at 1, tension is at 4. First things first though, let's install the walking foot. I'm gonna have to look up how to do this. It's a big boy. Switch the needle out to a ballpoint needle. Test all of these stitch settings on a scrap piece of fabric. I'm making sure that when I'm testing, the pieces are right sides together, oops, and that I'm also sewing along the same grain line as I would sew the actual dress. So I think that there is a slight bit of puckering, but you know, actually I think it looks really good. Try changing the tension from a 4 to a 3. One more test. I changed the stitch length. So here is where the 2.5 stitch length is, and this is where the 3 stitch length is, and I feel like there's more like dimpling, puckering, I don't know, here than here. So I think we'll go with the 2.5. I took a little break to walk my dogs, and now I'm ready to get back to this. I'm fearing a little bit for my thread situation. Let me show you. This is currently all that's left for my top thread. So before I commit to these zigzag stitches, because I do not want to seam rip again, especially because these stitches are so narrow, it's gonna be a lot harder than last time. I feel like my stitches were a lot wider last time. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to baste the dress together, try it on, see if any adjustments need to be made, and then do the zigzag. I'm also gonna take note of what the settings are on my sewing machine so that I don't forget. I'm still gonna try it on the scrap fabric first. So this is actually also my first time basting. I've also threaded my machine from memory. Hopefully I did it correct. It's looking like this. Here we go. I also wanted to note that I'm not letting the dress hang off the table. Like it got stuck. Finished basting the one side. What happened here? Short answer, I don't know. Definitely some like skipped stitches. Okay, but she is basted. This is interesting. The bottom of the skirt is really not lined up. What? And so that was the bottom piece. I don't... You see that? That big old bubble? Oh man. I feel like this might have something to do with the fabric relaxing after I pressed it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take out this basting. Should I take out this basting? But I kind of want to repin it, like realign it. I should ask ChatGPT. I'm going to seam rip this and then I'm going to repin it. I don't know if I'm going to finish this dress today. I just finished seam ripping what I basted. Remember the thread predicament I thought I was in, but I realized that I have more thread downstairs. I was really stressing out about that. Now I'm going to repin
this pattern. I don't know what happens to it. It just aligns, it doesn't align.
Wound a new bobbin. We have rethreaded our machine, and it's black thread this time, which I'm okay with at this point. Let's just try. Tell me, did anybody else go through the stage of forgetting how to, not how to, but forgetting to put the presser foot down when they were first learning how to sew? That seems to be something I'm doing quite often. I haven't even decided what stitch I'm going in with yet. Let's just do the zigzag, I guess. Oh. Stitch width 1, length was 2.5. Pretty happy with what went on there. It still looks aligned. Caught threads. Just cut this. I know it's pretty hard to see, but it's still like the alignment still looks the same, which is great. I don't think I sewed very precisely along the line. I hope it's going to be fine. Okay, I'm gonna take out these pins and sew the other side. I just finished sewing the other side. Moment of truth. Weep. Oops. She's looking pretty lined up. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna take out the pins. I'm so stoked with this alignment, honestly. I think this looks really good so far. Hopefully she fits. It's actually fitting very well. I'm so stoked. There's no more waviness on the sides. This gaping here. I'm just gonna pinch right here a little bit. No gaping on the other side. Chest overall is just fitting a lot better. We're just gonna have faith that the neckline is going to work out, but everything I'm pretty happy with. I'm going to take a little break. Well, I'm gonna call it a night, and then I will continue this tomorrow. I also wanted to say that I started this project at like 1:30 p.m. today, and I took a break, like an hour break to walk my dogs, and then like other small breaks here and there. Now it is currently almost 9 o'clock, and I had expected to actually finish this by today, but as it goes when you're learning something new, that did not happen. So I will have to continue this tomorrow, and basically this is why I wanted to create this channel and share the process, because even though that this was like a beginner pattern, and it's only, 2 panels sewn together and then just the bias tape binding, but just like when you're a beginner and you're trying to figure things out, I was making stupid mistakes like forgetting to put the presser foot down, just learning the foot pedal and like how much pressure I should put. Those little things I feel like is not talked about enough, but it's definitely part of the learning curve, and I just hope that I just want to be your struggle buddy if you're also learning how to sew or learning any sort of new skill really, and it's so easy to get frustrated at yourself, but I had a lot of fun doing this today. That's all I wanted to say. Is the next day I'm going to continue. I think it's time to find out what's going on with this velvet bias tape. I haven't looked at it since I bought it. I just came back from a facial, so if I'm looking extra dewy, that's why. Velvet bias tape from Amazon. So I'm gonna start with doing the hem. So this bias tape is really nice in the sense that it already came ironed with one flap longer than the other. I just need to iron out this end here. So actually, before we get to doing the bias binding, I want to finish the raw edges. So in order to do that, I need to kind of even out the 2 panels, and then I want to finish with the zigzag stitch with a straight stitch and using a casting foot. That was one of the methods in the videos that Mai recommended to finish the raw edges. I'm just gonna take a rotary cutter and just go for it. Might have to iron down these seams first and then let it relax. We've learned our lesson. So I just did a few test stitches of the stitch that I want to do. It looks like this. And I just tested it with the walking foot because obviously I'm doing it on this scrap. And that looks good to me. And then I'm gonna switch from the walking foot to the overcast foot. Tension back to 4. And you can't adjust the stitch length, but you can adjust the width, and I put the width at 2. That did not work out. I'm gonna try to switch the stitch width to 6, see how that goes. This one worked out a little bit better. However, I do think I need some more practice so that it's not rolled up like that. Second attempt looking better. This is my best overcast stitch. I sent a photo to ChatGPT to ask what it thinks I should do, and the first thing it said was to adjust the presser foot pressure. Turn the dial, this dial. So let's try that. And then I also decreased the width from a 6 to a 5. And then I think the tension, it said, might be too loose. Yeah, so I'm gonna put it at a 4.5. And it also said hold threads behind the foot for the first 2 to 3 stitches. This already looks a ton better. Like, it looks flatter, but I think I still need to decrease the presser foot pressure because it is stretching the fabric a little bit. I just took so long trying to figure out the overcast stitch. I was playing around with my presser foot pressure. It took me a really long time because as I was sewing the edge, the top layer would just curl up so much. As I was sewing, my fabric was being stretched and warped. I knew I had my foot pressure really, really light. And so I was just like, what if I just kept going? And that's what I did. And it ended up being very flat and not at all what I thought it was going to be like, which is very warped. So I'm very happy with this. I think it's looking good. I'm ready to actually finish the raw edge on the dress.
That took a ridiculously long time for me to figure out. I was talking to ChatGPT and then I think ChatGPT got confused and then I got confused. I'm gonna start calling ChatGPT Grandma GPT now because she's very helpful, but she does get confused sometimes, and sometimes there is miscommunication. So, lesson there.
Okay, we are back. I'm so excited. Dogs are walked, tea has been made, candles been lit, overcast stitch has been figured out. I'm so excited. So I sewed the other side like halfway through, and then I realized that nothing was happening because somehow I lost my top thread. So I finishing the 2 seams, and I'm pretty happy with the results. I mean, it's by no means perfect. I don't know if you can see, but there is like a little bit of waviness to it. On the first side, when I was doing it, I wasn't as good as manipulating the fabric. There are some little dimples in the fabric. Like, again, the top was just not getting pulled in as much as the bottom. Maybe if you were more skilled, you could do the stitch with a walking foot. I don't know if that's helpful or even worth doing. The second side, however, I got much better at manipulating the fabric, and I paid attention to not just how the fabric goes under the needle, but also what it's doing when it comes out, especially sewing around the curves. Like, you don't want your fabric to like be sitting like this when it comes out. Like, you kind of want it to give it to like space to move, if that makes sense. I'm also just recording this for myself so I remember next time. But as you can see here, there's no dimpling. Like, I'm actually very happy with this seam finish for my first time. And now I'm going to press these seams towards the back using my tailor's ham. I'm about to start attaching the bias tape. And I don't think in the video she really specified like what stitch length to use. I was really curious, and I think the recommended is like 2.5 to 3 for satin bias tape, and this is all according to ChatGPT, by the way, but that's what I'm going to do. And I'm also going to switch out my ballpoint needle for a smaller non-ballpoint needle. We don't want to make big holes in satin. Reached almost where I've started. I started the bias tape not exactly on the seam, but a little bit past it. And what I'm gonna do now is I want to cut this, cut the bias tape, the excess, fold it in and press so that no raw edges are showing. Good morning. It's a new day. I just got back from Pilates and I have some time before I have to take out the dogs, so I thought I would continue with my bias binding. So last night I finished the hem. Now I'm just going to continue working on the neckline. So I know in the video she starts with the neckline, but I feel like the hem is easier to do, and that gives you a little bit more practice before you go into the more difficult part because it has more curves. I'm gonna start with the back, so you just go from the peaks all the way around the back. Houston, we have a couple of problems. The first one is over on this side. I don't think that I sewed the fabric to the edge of the bias tape, so this side looks a lot better. This side is looking a little flat. Second problem, I feel like the straps are sitting too far out on my shoulders. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually give this in the middle a bigger pinch. See how that goes. Back to seam ripping we go. Well, hello. This is the finished result. I'm really happy with all that I've learned making this dress. Everything I did with the seams I'm pretty happy with. However, I undid the neckline, like I sewed it, seam ripped it probably 3 times. And I could never get it to look the way that I want. I could never get the fabric into the bias tape as far as I wanted to, especially around this curve. And I realized it's because the bias tape that I'm using is simply too thick. It is not possible, at least for me, to get the beautiful curves of this neckline. In the creator's video, she uses a thinner bias tape. In all the recreations of this dress that I've seen, they use a thinner bias tape. This is why over here is still gaping, is because the fabric cannot curve enough to get like a steeper, I don't know, how would you say this, ascension into the shoulder. Besides that, I think it looks really cute. I would totally wear this out. At some point, I will probably get a thinner bias tape and redo the neckline. I might be able to get away with just redoing the top portion of the dress. But yeah, overall, I'm very happy. I think it looks so cute.